Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Key Gripe, the show for short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. And today I'm going to be talking about the film Don't Breathe. And there will be spoilers, so I'm going to just get that out right now. A trio of burglars look for one big score when they learn a blind army vet has a huge stash of cash in his house. But they quickly find this job is far from simple, and getting out alive isn't guaranteed. The film stars Stephen Lang, Jane Levy, Dylan Minnette, and Daniel Zavato. It's a small cast. The film is directed by Fede Alvarez of Uruguay. So the movie opens with an almost perfect shot. The shot is beautiful. It's an aerial zoom on the blind man dragging Rocky, the female lead, down the middle of the street. So right off the bat, you know that this story is going to have some serious turns to it. Fede Alvarez definitely deserves all the credit for the success of this movie. He did direct it, he also co-wrote it. The direction is sharp, especially there's a scene in the dark basement. It's shown in the trailers, but in the actual film, it's extremely well crafted. It's a very well directed scene and adds to the tension of the film. He uses a lot of common cliches that we see in horror movies and thrillers like this, but he doesn't lean on them with very few exceptions. There are a lot of familiar moments that work well in the context of this film, save for maybe the scene in the air duct when she's escaping from the dog. What's beautiful about this movie is that there's real tension that isn't defined simply by jump scares, which seems to be the trend for movies like this, is that it's around every turn there's going to be a jump scare. This movie does have them, but it's not overly reliant on them. The tension is created by the situation, by the atmosphere. The acting is solid, especially from the young cast, but also from Stephen Lang, an established actor. There isn't a lot in the way of character development aside from Lang's character and Levy's character. It's pretty basic in that sense, and the concept of the story is also very basic. In a way, it almost feels like 8 Mile meets Panic Room with a little bit of Cujo sprinkled in there. But it does enough to stay grounded in its own reality and never goes too far over the top. It's not an outrageous horror film. It's meant to be a small, contained type of horror film. It is challenging, though, because there's really no one you can root for in this movie. Well, maybe the dog. You get the main female character, Rocky, who's in a bad situation. She's obviously trying to get out of the situation she's in. They're in Detroit. Things are not looking well. She wants to get out of there. She wants to get her sister away from her alcoholic, crazy mother. But that doesn't change the fact that she's still a criminal. She has no hesitation whatsoever to steal from a blind man. Doesn't matter how much money it is. She has no hesitation whatsoever to steal from him. So it's hard for me to necessarily feel bad for her when bad things happen. At the same time, you almost want to root for Lang because he's a blind man, he lost his daughter to an accident, he's obviously a shut-in, he doesn't have much of a life outside of his little world. But then you find out the twist of the movie, and suddenly you're not rooting for this guy at all. Which already brings me to my key gripe. My key gripe, I actually have 2 key gripes for this one, but my first one is that the third act of this movie really falters, particularly when this twist is revealed why the blind man has his house locked up so tightly. It's obviously an important thing of how they get into the house and why he has it so locked up, but when you find out why, it makes sense to a degree, but it also gets a little bit, this is where it does sort of come off the rails a little bit. And I understand it's necessary to add some plot at this point, because otherwise this movie, the concept is 60 minutes tops. But it doesn't land particularly well, and specifically what he has hidden in his basement that he doesn't want getting out or anybody else finding. It's not just about the money he has stashed, it's also about what he has in his basement. My other gripe is sort of about the female lead gets a little bit of a happy ending. And truth be told, she doesn't deserve it. She does not deserve a happy ending. The movie doesn't have a happy ending per se, because basically she's the only one who makes it out of that house alive. The blind man she, basically tries to kill, but he ultimately gets away with his life. But she gets away from the whole situation without any consequence. She's able to retrieve her sister, take the money that she stole, and move on to California without any consequence. And she has no remorse for her crimes. There's nothing in her character that says that she's sorry for what she's done. And since no one is innocent, no one really deserves to get away. So I don't feel all that relieved when she does ultimately get away in this story. In a way, it's kind of the same problem I had with The Shallows, but I think this one is even less deserved when it comes to that the characters did not deserve a happy ending. Or in the case of The Shallows, it's just I didn't need that happy ending epilogue, but in this case, I did not think she earned a happy ending. She got something that she didn't earn. Even if she was terrorized and tortured and all that, it doesn't change the fact that she's still a criminal who broke into a blind man's house to steal his money. Overall, though, despite a very basic premise and the third act faltering, the film delivers some legitimate thrills and boasts some excellent direction to make you feel just as trapped as the characters. It's certainly one of the better horror thrillers I've seen. It doesn't overly rely on violence and gore. It also doesn't rely on jump scares. It is an atmospheric thriller, and one that I think was well done. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I think it was a good film. It could have used maybe a little bit more exposition in the beginning. Instead, they kind of jump right into it. And maybe a little bit more character development, but overall, it definitely delivers what it promises with good direction and good acting, which is what you hope to get out of a horror film like this, especially one that is entirely focused on a limited number of characters like this. If you've seen Don't Breathe, let me know what you think in the comments below. Hopefully I haven't spoiled too much. If you haven't seen it, but you should, go see it. That does it for this episode of Key Gripe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to keep up on all of my YouTube videos by clicking subscribe, and if you're already a subscriber, thank you, and you rock. Also visit my homepage at dkessner.com where you can find out about all my various other projects, including my written works. How about that? You can also find me at my social media handles, so drop in and say hi. And again, thank you so much for all your support. Love you.